pretend. Feel the earth move and then hear my heart burst.
It's all over, Browns fans. Yep, it's done. But there's so much to talk about. Welcome to the Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns. Andy McNamara alongside Browns Insider from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, Matt Florjancic. There is not enough show to get through everything we need to. Mike Pettin, Ray Farmer, fired as expected. Johnny Manziel, AWOL, lied, was in Las Vegas, showed up apparently inebriated. His days in Cleveland seem all but done. And the guy who's kind of running the team now, well, he's a lawyer, and he's never done it before. Matt, I don't even know where to start, my friend. How are you doing? After an early Black Monday, it came Bloody Sunday for Cleveland.
Well, when you put it that way, how can we be doing okay?
You've been up all night.
All right, you're just trying to plow through another coaching search. This is now, I believe, number 5 for me. So this is kind of old hat, but still something you never like to have to do. You hope for some continuity, and from a personal standpoint, you kind of feel bad for all the families that get caught up in this mess, and unfortunately there's quite a few that look like they're going to be moving on, particularly those on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, the assistant coaches I feel bad for because they have less certainty than the head coach. Folks, don't feel bad for Mike Pettin. Not for a second. Don't feel bad for his family. I would love my family to have that problem of getting paid out, $8 million to be owed? Give me those problems, please. Ray Farmer, by all accounts, Matt, you were in the building. Oh, he was glad-handing, shaking hands, all light and happy, leaving the building. He's getting paid. He ruined this team. He's getting paid. They don't care, folks. They don't care. They care while they're here. They think they're doing the right thing, but ultimately the incompetence just becomes too much. So the Mike Pettin, Ray Farmer era mercifully comes to an end. Browns with their worst record falling 28-12 to Pittsburgh in the season finale again. And I think Pettin is Matt, the 5th head coach to get fired after a final game loss to Pittsburgh? Around there, started with Romeo?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite the history. It happened to Mangini, it happened to Pat Shurmur, and now it's happened to Mike Pettin, and I believe it's happened, like you said, to Romeo as well. So,
and to Chud.
That's like 3 or 4 right there that are all gotten the big L to Pittsburgh on their way out the door as a parting gift to Browns fans.
Yeah, and Matt, you've been up all night working on stories at the facility. Jimmy Haslam had the 7 o'clock press conference. How shocked were you when he came out, and we all knew Farmer and Pettin were going to be fired, but how shocked were you when he said Sashi Brown, a legal council member, a VP, is now head of football operations and has the final say on the 53-man roster?
Stunned is probably a pretty good word to describe it. To me, when he laid out the plan for the future of the front office, the general manager position is all but essentially a senior scout now, under the current setup that Haslam has going forward. It's a guy who's in charge of the scouting department and puts the draft board together, but a lawyer, a career lawyer, now has power to make the final say over the roster. And Haslam was, more than happy to point out that that's final say, but with a lot of input from, other people, but still a lawyer has final say over football operations. And that, to me, is a dangerous proposition going forward because he's never done it before. But to me, it shows 2 things. A, Sashi Brown has all the confidence of the owner.
Yeah.
And B, Haslam knows that his franchise is a joke and that you cannot get anybody credible who's, A, done the position of general manager before or is an up-and-comer in the league who wants to become a first-time GM. And it is gotten to that point where there is no credible person who is going to come in here with any type of valuable football experience that could help this franchise and try to get it set on the right track. He did admit that it's probably going to be a 2 to 3 year rebuilding process. It's going to take time to rebuild through the draft after essentially, I believe it was 18 picks by Ray Farmer, just all but about 2 of them have been awful and have rendered zero productivity for the Browns.
But, Matt, we're always in a 2-year rebuild. We're always in a 2 to 3 year rebuild.
I know. No, I hear you. You can only be in a 2-year rebuild for so long when you continuously hit the eject button after 2 years. You've extended it now a bunch of times, and you're looking at a situation right now where you're hoping Sashi Brown gets good advisors and understands what's going on. But essentially, he's the general manager now, and your GM, quote unquote, is basically a senior scout that just makes recommendations. So
yeah, in name only.
Lots to prove from the front office side of things. I don't know that we got worse, but I damn sure feel that we did not get much better in the personnel department.
No, well, okay, Matt. Before we dump all over the Browns, and we got a whole offseason for that, folks. By the way, we're brought to you by DraftPot.com. Terrific fantasy sports website. Play football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever the case might be. Use promo code Browns when you sign up, and they'll match up to $300 of your first deposit. On Twitter, at AndyMC81, at Matt Fleur Jansen. Question simple: what's your reaction to the firings, to the appointment of Sashi Brown as guru, to Johnny going AWOL in Vegas? We'll get to that in a few minutes. But Matt, it goes back to with Jimmy Haslam when he started the press conference, and I will give him credit on that. He took full responsibility. He didn't try to pass the buck. He said, ultimately, it ends with me. We were not good enough. And he was pretty blunt in saying we have lacked in talent acquisition. And I think you could say that for both on and off the field. So he's not blindsided. He didn't think that Ray Farmer did a good job and they had some bad luck. He knows that this roster is horrendous. The problem to me comes in when, okay, you admit that, and then you go back to an even more convoluted state to what you were at. Like, okay, if someone wants to make a trade with the Browns, I guess they call Sashi Brown, but what if it's at a deadline, Matt? What if you're at the draft? What if you're on the clock? Does he have to say, oh, hold on a sec, and converse with Jimmy Haslam, his wife Dee, who, by all accounts, I've heard is a lovely lady. I don't know why she's in making football decisions. Alex Shiner, and who the hell knows who else is going to be in there? Maybe the head coach. Like,
I think that's why Joe Thomas didn't get traded at the deadline, because there were so many hands in the pot that the Denver Broncos essentially said, you know what, as much as we need this guy, you don't have your you-know-what together, so we can't continuously deal with you where we have a preliminary deal worked out, and all of a sudden you call back and say, oh, we want more because, a non-football guy, Alex Shiner, said that's not good enough, or Ray Farmer said, no, we just want a little bit more. Like, it doesn't get much better under the new format, and it's going to be interesting to see how this team functions moving forward. I don't want to, bury someone on their first day, but the structure that Jimmy has put together is not one that's conducive to having continuity in decision making when essentially the GM answers to Sashi and the head coach answers to the owner. It doesn't breed confidence that we're going to get this thing fixed, because it's the same type of situation we had before, where, it's a giant power grab and people try to make decisions based on what's best for their careers rather than what's best for the organization that's paying their checks. Yeah,
and Jimmy Haslam's reasoning for Sashi Brown was, well, he's likable. People like him in the building. He gets along with people. It was all about collaboration. That was kind of the buzzword, collaboration. Well, people like Sashi now, when he wasn't making final football decisions. Well, what happens if people stop liking Sashi, or you have a tie in decision making on a move or a draft pick, whatever? What happens then? How likable is he really going to be? And like ultimately, Matt, like if it's a group decision, you're absolutely right. Somebody is going to be trying to become the top dog in that group. And that ultimately leads to more dysfunction. Head coach, as you said, reports to the owner. You're breeding, to me, another Mike Pettin, Rob Chudzinski type of hire, because you can count out any sort of top name. Like John Gruden, if that was even a possibility, hails no. He's not coming. He won't have final say. Chip Kelly, I don't want Chip Kelly. He's completely out. You are begging for a first-time coordinator who's not going to be Adam Gase, who's not going to be a top prospect, who's going to be your third, fourth, fifth option, and then they'll try to dress up the pig, trot him out, and say, okay, yeah, he's our guy to lead men, just like we heard with Chud, just like we heard with Pet.
If you get your third option at this point, I would consider that a small victory, because the last two times that Haslam has gone through a coaching search, they haven't even sniffed their third option. They've gone probably 6-7 deep to try and fill a coaching vacancy. And credit Haslam for saying that he still believes this is an attractive opportunity for people, but he still does not yet understand that when you cannot recruit top talent, you're not going to get top results. There were people that took coordinator positions to stay away from your head coaching position. Now, let me put that in perspective for you. The top-level coordinators, in the NFL make, depending upon where they're where they're at and what team they're with, they can make upwards of $1 million.
Okay.
That is the absolute top-level salary for a coordinator.
So like a North Turner.
A head coach in this league, yes, a North Turner or Ray Orton, guys who've been around for a very, very, very long time, they command top-level salaries for coordinators. A head coach in this league, if you're decent, you can make $3 to $5 million a year. So there were people willing to take a hell of a lot less than $1 million, because Adam Gase was still an up-and-comer and he was not making top-level money. You're looking at people staying in a $500,000 job, which still is a lot of money, but you're looking at them staying in that position for a few more years and passing up on roughly $10 million worth of salary to be a head coach in this league. That's embarrassing. When you can't pry someone away for an interview, Gase wouldn't even take an interview with this team, and he's potentially looking down the barrel of $10 million, making money as a head coach in this league, and even if he gets fired, still having a contract where he's paid every dime that he's owed. That is quite telling about the state of the Cleveland Browns when people do not want to even interview. And it is a hell of an upgrade for them if they chose to interview with the Browns and get offered a job.
Matt, you just depressed me more than I thought I could be with that analysis there. Wow. See,
I didn't try to, but I'm just saying that's the cold hard reality of this thing, is that you had coordinators who were first-time head coaching candidates saying, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay as a coordinator.
That is so telling. And so you're right, though. So we're not really looking for a GM. We're looking for a director of player personnel type of guy. So that eliminates up-and-comers like an Elliot Wolf, Ron Wolf's son, who was rumored to be here. Ron Wolf's not consultant. They have Korn Ferry helping with their head coaching search. Doug Marone's been linked to it. Matt, would you be excited with Doug Marone, 9-7, 7-9, then screwed over the Buffalo Bills, took money, and then was an assistant head coach with Jacksonville for a year? I'm not excited about Doug Marone.
I wouldn't be either. The rumor going around was that the Browns actually offered him the job the last time around, I believe, when they hired Chudzinski.
Yeah.
But he had another interview scheduled with Buffalo, and he wanted to be true to his